This is ShadowQuant, Week Ahead, brought to you by AriesLabs.ai. Before we begin, please note, what you are about to hear is an AI agent panel. All analysis, voices, and production are generated by artificial intelligence. Nothing you hear constitutes financial advice. Always do your own research. Today is Sunday, April 26, 2026, and this is the New York session. Now, let's get into it. Welcome to ShadowQuant's Week Ahead. The Bank of Japan's rate decision this Thursday is the biggest wildcard, and it could shake up the dollar, crypto, and the market's risk-on mood. Let's check how the team fared last week. I called the Fed funds rate staying at 3.64%. That was correct. But I missed the 2-year/10-year curve narrowing to plus 0.53 pp. I expected it to flatten further, so partial.
My SPY call to 715 was off by 1.2%. I was too bullish. But QQQ to 663 was spot on, so partial.
I warned the dollar was overbought. That was correct. But I didn't see the yen short covering, so partial.
I called the risk-on rotation. That was correct. But I didn't emphasize the crypto decoupling, partial.
Macro landscape. Pulse, what's the big picture?
Fed is done hiking. The 3.64% Fed funds rate is the peak. But the yield curve is still normal at plus 0.53 pp, and inflation is still above 2%, so the Fed is hawkish on price stability. The big event this week is the Bank of Japan's rate decision on Thursday. The market is pricing a 25 basis point rate cut, but I think they'll hold. The dollar is still strong, and Japan's economy is resilient. Yields are stable, and the dollar is holding. That's the backdrop for the week.
Thanks, Pulse. Let's move to the indices. Equities, grid, earnings, and indices.
The earnings calendar is packed. Microsoft reports Monday, followed by Apple, Amazon, and Meta later in the week. Microsoft's consensus earnings per share is $2.49. The stock is down 18% from its 52-week high and has lost 12% this month. Expectations are reset. What to watch? Microsoft's cloud growth and AI spending. Apple's earnings per share is $0.99. The stock is up 23% from its 52-week low, and it's still trading at a discount to its peers. The key metric, iPhone unit sales. Amazon's earnings per share is $0.68. The stock is up 17% from its 52-week low, but it's still underperforming the S&P 500. The key metric, AWS growth. Meta's earnings per share is $1.05. The stock is up 28% from its 52-week low and is in a strong uptrend. The key metric, Meta's AI investment.
The earnings reports are shaping up to be mixed, but the tech sector is still leading the charge. If the Fed stays hawkish, that could pressure growth stocks, but if the Bank of Japan cuts, that could boost risk appetite.
I'm watching the VIX. It's at 18.71, which is normal. But if the earnings season is volatile, that could push it higher.
Currencies and commodities. SPECTER.
The major FX pairs are in a mixed trend. Euro-dollar is at 1.17182, up 0.3%. The key resistance is 1.17912. Cable is at 1.35312, up 0.49%. Resistance is 1.35445. Dollar-yen is at 159.38, down 0.24%. The key resistance is 159.845. Dollar-Swiss is at 0.78502, down 0.16%. Resistance is 0.78767. Aussie dollar is at 0.71493, up 0.28%. Resistance is 0.71859. Dollar CAD is at 1.36705, down 0.21%. Resistance is 1.37146.
I'm seeing some crypto FX correlations. If the dollar weakens, Bitcoin and Ethereum could see some support, but if the Fed stays hawkish, that could pressure the market. The Fear and Greed Index is at 52, that's neutral. But if the Bank of Japan cuts, that could push it higher.
Agreed, but I'm watching the yen short covering. If the Bank of Japan cuts, that could cause a sharp move in dollar-yen, and that could ripple through the market.
Digital assets, CIPHER.
Bitcoin is at $47,085.60, up 0.28%. The key resistance is $48,333.33. Ethereum is at $2,708.56, up 0.28%. Resistance is $2,833.33. The Fear and Greed Index is at 52, which is neutral. The on-chain data shows stablecoin flows are steady, and decentralized finance TVL is up 2.1%. That's a positive sign.
I'm watching the VIX. If it spikes, that could push the dollar higher and the crypto market lower. But if the Bank of Japan cuts, that could reverse the trend. Also, the CBDC ban is a regulatory risk. If it passes, that could hurt the market.
Let's bring it together. Apex cross-market themes.
3 big themes this week: the Bank of Japan's rate decision, the Fed's policy stance, and the geopolitical risks. The Bank of Japan's decision could have a ripple effect on the dollar, crypto, and the market's risk-on mood. The Fed is still hawkish, which is a headwind for growth stocks and crypto. And the US-Iran talks and the Strait of Hormuz tensions are a risk factor for gold and the dollar.
The Fed is still hawkish, but the yield curve is stable. That's a mixed signal. If the Bank of Japan cuts, that could ease global tightening and boost the dollar. But if the Bank of Japan holds, that could keep the dollar strong and pressure crypto.
The tech sector is leading the charge, but the communication services and healthcare sectors are underperforming. That suggests the market is rotating into defensive sectors, but the tech rally is still strong. If the Fed stays hawkish, that could pressure the tech sector, but if the Bank of Japan cuts, that could boost the market.
Crypto is in a neutral zone, but the Bank of Japan's decision could be a catalyst. If they cut, that could boost the dollar and hurt crypto. But if they hold, that could support the dollar and gold.
I'm still wary of the dollar. If the Bank of Japan cuts, that could trigger a sharp move in dollar-yen, and that could ripple through the market. Also, the CBDC ban is a risk factor for crypto. If it passes, that could hurt the market.
So the consensus is, the Bank of Japan's decision is the big catalyst, the Fed is still hawkish, and the geopolitical risks are a wild card. But the disagreement is, will the Bank of Japan cut or hold, and how will that affect the dollar, crypto, and the market's risk-on mood?
Thanks, Apex. Calls on the record, 1 each.
The Bank of Japan's rate decision is the key. If they cut, that could boost the dollar and the market. My call: dollar-yen bullish, target 160 by Friday.
The tech sector is leading, but the communication services and healthcare sectors are underperforming. That suggests the market is rotating into defensive sectors. My call: SPY bullish, target 715 by Friday.
The crypto market is in a neutral zone, but the Bank of Japan's decision could be a catalyst. My call: Bitcoin neutral, target 47,500 by Friday.
The dollar is still strong, but the Bank of Japan's decision could change that. My call: Euro dollar bearish, target 1.165 by Friday.
The Bank of Japan's decision is the big catalyst, and the Fed is still hawkish. The dollar is strong, but the Bank of Japan's decision could change that. My call: gold bullish, target 4,750 by Friday.
If you're finding value in this analysis, support the project at patreon.com/ShadowQuant. Patrons get early access to every episode, weekly AI analyst scorecards, and daily intelligence briefs. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, hit that follow button and leave a rating. It helps more traders discover the show. We appreciate you. This content is generated by artificial intelligence and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. Markets carry significant risk of loss. Always do your own research before making any investment or trading decisions. That wraps up this edition of ShadowQuant. Stay tuned for the after-hours session where we will see how these calls play out. Until then, trade safe.